Right.
Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Dr. George Gonzalez of the Hologram Podcast, and I'm so excited to be here with Dr. Chris Astill-Smith. He's a British-trained osteopath. He's a naturopath, and he was the first osteopath who became an applied kinesiology diplomate. He's in London, England. Thank you, Dr. Chris, for being with us today.
No problem. My pleasure.
Now, I'm so excited to say that, we both have a year-end event in the same part of California, and
That's right.
we've been sharing students for years,
Yeah.
and we always had our events on the same day originally, and I always wanted to come to your event, and then so we started staggering our events, and I started attending your event and being a student of yours. And I'm so excited that you've agreed to come to our homecoming event and give a presentation
Looking forward to it.
November 8th and 9th.
Yeah.
So tell us about your presentation on light-sensitive structures in the human body.
Yeah, I'll just give you a brief outline first of all. Light-sensitive structures in the human body have been fascinating to me for a number of years, since treating a few people with macular degeneration, when they lose the central vision and they lose the ability to see certain colors. So I invented some acetates to try and test people's colors, people's cones, whether they're active or not. And really over the years, it's gone from there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with rods and cones, and they've light sensitive pigments that are contained in there called rhodopsin, iodopsin, and melanopsin. So these are specialist compounds which pick up the different wavelengths of light. Then we'll be talking about other areas in the body which contain light-sensitive structures called chromophores. And so we'll be looking at hemoglobin, which of course is a big one, myoglobin, and a family of enzymes called cytochromes. So cytochrome B, C, and cytochrome P450. So the chromophores that I want to look at in particular are in hemoglobin, which carries the oxygen, of course, around in the red blood cells. Myoglobin, which carries oxygen and stores it in the muscle fibers. Catalase, which is a cytochrome enzyme, a heme enzyme, which reduces hydrogen peroxide to water. Cyclooxygenase pathways involved with prostaglandins 1, 2, 3, the pro and anti-inflammatory prostaglandins. Cystathionein synthase, which converts homocysteine to cysteine. Cytochrome C, which transfers structures from complex 3 to complex 4 in the mitochondria. Cytochrome C oxidase, which transfers electrons from 4 to the oxygen in the mitochondria, produces the energy. Myeloperoxidase, which is also a heme-dependent enzyme, which helps to synthesize hypochlorite from hydrogen peroxide in the immune system. Nitric oxide synthase, which does similarly produces nitric oxide from arginine as a fighter of gram-negative bacteria. Peroxidases, which reduce hydrogen peroxide to water in other complexes in the body. One favorite of mine is sulfite oxidase, which helps to convert sulfites into sulfates in wines and beers. So this is an essential one of understanding if you drink wine and beer. Hypotaurine dehydrogenase, which converts hypotaurine to taurine, which is a major big detoxifier of sulfates in the body as a sulfur donor. The thyroid peroxidase, which is the enzyme that converts iodine into the form necessary to produce thyroxine. It activates through the cytochrome P450, the vitamin D pathways, which are essential again for the immune system and bone structure. And I'll talk briefly about hypoxia, how to produce the heme in the first place from the succinyl-CoA, and how we learn, if we've got time in the seminar, using the 3 neurotransmitters of glutamate, dopamine, and acetylcholine. And we learned that dopamine stimulates dendritic growth, and this is very important with the vitamin D, with Parkinsons, and again with light therapy. That's it.
That's an amazing list of biochemical actions within the body that, as somebody who comes from a background of not understanding biochemistry and starting to be a student of yours and learning about this level of communication within our body, and to find out that all these pathways are light sensitive.
Absolutely, that's where I put them together.
That's so absolutely amazing.
and they all respond to light, whether that light is sunlight, etc. But more specifically, we want to learn which wavelengths of the light, particularly the ones in the near infrared, can stimulate these pathways best.
Now, would you say that these are like light switches within the biochemistry field, that light is turning a switch on and off, or how would you describe that light is affecting these,
Yeah, light
pathways?
moves the electrons in and produces energy in most of these pathways, ATP. But it mainly is an activator of the enzyme pathway itself.
Absolutely fascinating. And how do you test this? You talked about this acetate concept. Could you talk about that and explain to people what the acetates are?
Yeah, the acetates are pure colors of the rainbow, the 7 colors. And what we do is we put them over the eyes, and we can then pick up which muscle with muscle testing, which colors weaken a person. So I start off with 3 acetates, which correspond to the 3 cone colors, red, green, and blue. And the acetates are slightly offset to what the human eye picks up. So on the red acetate, for instance, it's geared towards the orange end of the spectrum at 619 nanometers. The green is at 550, and the blue is at 440. So they're offset from mid-range. So it gives the human a much bigger field of vision, unlike a color television set, which is set to mid-range red, green, and blue all the time. So what we do is we paste the acetates over the eyes, with the eyes open, first of all. And the incredible thing is that people always weaken to one of those colors. So it's a genetic thing. As far as, if your parents say weaken to the green, then you would weaken to the green. You wouldn't have a child who would weaken to the blue, for instance. And then we found that the different colors were modulated by different hormones in the body. So people who weaken to the green tend to be dominated much more by their adrenal glands. People who weaken to the red tend to be dominated by their thyroid glands. And those who weaken to the blue tend to be involved with, dominated mostly by their gonads. So the colors, the different colors represent different body builds or body types. And along with each of this, there's a range of different functions which are underfunctioning, if you like, in the different body types. So for instance, red people are much more prone to cardiovascular problems and have high ApoE4 gene, etc. So there's metals as well, different toxic metals which the enzymes become inhibited with. So for instance, I'm a green person, I'm sensitive to nickel. You're probably a blue person, you're probably sensitive to mercury, and red people are sensitive to aluminium. So it can tell you a whole host of information about a person.
Now, if I could re-summarize what you just said for people, is that by using the specific colors, you could identify where that person is incongruent with certain wavelengths. And those wavelengths have certain biomarkers that are associated with biochemical reactions.
That's right.
In the body.
Yes, the red, green, and blue are very specific wavelengths which are set exactly to what the human cones pick up. So the human cones have red, green, and blue, but they're set to specific wavelengths. These are all certifiable in Guyton's physiology book, where I took them from.
No, it's absolutely fascinating, and I find it that because somebody is inhibiting neurologically to one of those colors, that those colors are deficient within the biochemistry of their body.
Yeah, it's
something that's discernible. It's something that's
in every case there's a pattern of different biochemistry which is underfunctioning.
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I have watched your lectures on that online. I don't know exactly where, but I have watched the lectures on the red and the green and the blue patterns. And it's absolutely fascinating when you look at those patterns and you're like, that's me, and that's how my body has adapted or reacted to that issue.
It's what they call the body type. So it's very similar to Ayurvedic medicine with the 3 sort of doshas that they have. Very similar, but not quite exactly the same.
Now, how do they figure out the light frequency from the biochemical level that we're talking about?
Well, that depends upon which one we're working on. What I want to really talk in my talk at your homecoming is more about what your work does from a biochemistry point of view. So what I want to do is to take the different wavelengths of light that you use and try and explain how they work inside the cells of the body, and particularly inside the mitochondria. So I'm looking to
I'm
see
very excited.
what are those light sensitive structures and how do they respond to different wavelengths. So the three different types that I did, first of all, is how I got into it. But now I'm a bit more like you. I'm looking at ultraviolet, near ultraviolet wavelengths, the near infrared, and the deep red colors.
Right. Now, from all the research that I've done out there, there's a lot of benefit for using red and infrared colors for therapy, like the GRT light that we have. Do you see things that show evidence for other colors being used?
Oh yes,
therapeutically?
because each of the meridians has a color. Also, the yang meridians that begin and end on the face, they have a set color of the 7 colors of the rainbow. Each meridian, each yang meridian has a specific color. For instance, the stomach meridian has a red color, and let's say that the conception vessel has a green color, etc. So there's the pure 7 colors of the rainbow are represented by the yang meridians. And then the yin ones are the complementary colors to those. So that way we can tell which meridian it is that's under functioning when we examine patients.
Absolutely fascinating. I'm so excited, and I want people to save the date and start making reservations to come out to our homecoming event. Dr. Chris Astill-Smith is going to be speaking on this topic in depth and doing demonstrations. November 8th and 9th in Culver City, Los Angeles, California area. Please save the date, and also save the date for the weekend after, because Dr. Chris, you're going to be doing an event of your own that I'm going to be present at. I'm one of your students. I'm so excited about your work, and I want people to really know about what you're doing. It's so exciting. And tell us about your event and name the dates and the location if you can.
Well, our event is on the 16th and 17th of November, the week after your homecoming, at the Embassy Suites North at LAX Airport Boulevard. We're going to be mainly topic is phospholipids and the mitochondria. So we'll be looking at the phospholipid structures and how to get nutrients into the cells through the phospholipid membranes, and particularly with mitochondrial disorders. So we'll be looking at cell membrane structures, the different types of phospholipids, finishing with cardiolipin, which is the most important one within the mitochondria. And we'll be using muscle testing for testing which phospholipid it is that's deficient or out of balance. We'll be testing for fatty acid ratios, particularly the essential fatty acids of the omega-3 and omega-6 ratios. Testing for good oils and bad oils and oil blends. So how practitioners can test what is a good oil, an oil that isn't rancid, etc., and ones which will promote the right oil ratios. And then we'll be looking at the structure and the function of mitochondria and how to assess mitochondrial energy pathways, and most importantly, mutations in mitochondrial DNA. For instance, again, coming back to serious disorders like Parkinson's.
Absolutely amazing. High recommend. That's November 15th and 16th. Is that correct?
16th and 17th, Saturday and Sunday. We do, yes.
Yeah, so yes. November 16th and 17th. Yes. Please come out to the homecoming event November 8th and 9th and stay with the family. Go to Disneyland, go to the beaches, see what all the wonderful things are to see here in Southern California, and then be here for Dr. Chris Astill-Smith's event on November 16th and 17th.
Absolutely. Lovely.
It's a must see. I was blown away. I've had students for years, and because our schedule clashed, I'd have my students come every other year to my event, or they'd go to a different date event, and they're like, "I'm sorry, I can't go to that event, and I'm going to Dr. Chris's event." And they would tell me how amazing your work is, and all the biochemistry that you organized in a way that it's a learnable process. I've been watching your watching your videos. It's amazing how you've laid it all out, that now after so many years, I could even learn this. Exciting.
Yeah, I call it functional biochemistry because it's using muscle testing, kinesiology procedures and things. So it brings it alive. So biochemistry is a bit of a dead subject You know, if you're like me, when you're at college, all you want to do is pass the exams and then forget it. But now with things like being able to tell and muscle test for the energy pathways, it brings it all alive. Wonderful.
It truly is amazing, and it's the next level of ability of care for somebody and being able to figure things out. Just within my own personal experience, finding the specific wavelength that the body's not working with, you were able to identify a very specific nutrient for a family member of mine, and night and day difference in within a few days of using that nutrient to fill in that gap. Could you talk about that kind of a concept and how that people see those kind of changes?
Yeah, I think in your case, in this particular person's case, what we did is we assessed which meridian was up and which meridian was down, like a seesaw, and we searched for the right nutrient in this case, for nutrients necessary to bring the balance back in. So we increased the low one, decreased the high one, and what we did is we went through a series of different enzymes. In this case, it was a coenzyme, and if I remember the case, it was pyridoxal 5-phosphate, which came up for the base.
Correct.
Yeah. So we can work to find a specific nutrient, and we have our own manufacturing plant, so we make all these nutrients, and we make all the test kits, and we make all the acetates. So I think you're very kindly going to give us a trade stand there so that we can show some of the products that we use on a regular basis.
Absolutely. It's a high recommend. As I said, I'm a big fan. I'm a student of yours. I want people to know about the amazing work that you're doing. Again, you're going to be presenting November 16th and 17th, the weekend after the homecoming event, November 8th and 9th. And so please come out to both events. And thank you, Dr. Chris. And I look forward to having you at our homecoming event. It's very exciting.
Yeah, we look forward to it very much as well.
All right. Well, thank you again, and we'll see you at our event. Everybody, again, November 8th and 9th, and the weekend after for Dr. Chris's event, November 16th and 17th, Southern California. Please start making your reservations and see the magic that's happening with quantum neurology and Dr. Chris Astill-Smith's work. It's absolutely amazing, and we'll see you soon.